All right. So movement lab today, we're going to work with, you might want to have a chair or a block. It's only for one pose, so you'll probably do fine without it. Just a couple of announcements. I have a couple of free things that are going on. I'm doing next Monday, I'm doing a wellness, planning your wellness um, adventure into the winter season. So from 9 to 10 on Monday, the 26th. And and then if you're in Eau Claire, which I think everybody in class today, we're doing some walking. So if that works out for you. I don't know how today's is going to work out. We're supposed to get a lot of rain. So the people that are signed up, I've contacted them. If you were going to just show up, you might want to make sure we're going to be there. And then on the 19th of November, I'm doing another kind of toolkit check-in, trying to keep in touch with people here in Eau Claire or wherever with the Zoom. I can do that, and just doing another webinar that'll kind of keep us all in the right groove, and that'll be right after this class in November on a Thursday, so the 19th. All right, so we're going to work with some, like, what is movement lab? Why are we calling our practice that? And it's a little bit because we've shifted the way that we're working with the yoga practice. And I just was thinking about this, what I was going to teach this morning, and it's like a judicious movement, right? It's being very thoughtful about how we're moving and the movement, and if we're throwing in yoga poses. And the thing that I've noticed as I've started to do a lot more strength, a lot more Pilates, that I've been teaching action and resistance for all this time, is that it's really a little bit different flavor of the yoga practice, right? So that we're thinking pretty long term in our body, right? What we can do at 20, 30, 40 is going to be different than what we do later. So keeping that idea of that action resistance and aware of our end range. And what I mean about end range is that when I was 25, I could do a certain kind of pose, or if I have loose joints, I'm able to twist up into pretzel-like positions. And if you've been doing practice with me, we haven't been doing a lot of pretzel-like things because maybe there's just not a lot of benefit in doing a pretzel thing. And although I like to feel a little bit of stretch now and then, I really like to feel that I'm solid, so that when I'm going out into my other practices, I'm going out to walk, hike, do whatever, I've got that stability. So the strength piece really equals all that mobility and stability that I'm looking for as I go through the stages of my life. So keep that pretty well intact. And so when we're working here today, I'm going to work with all the lovely little pieces of the body here, kind of starting with the feet and moving up. And just with that in mind, that can we work within the spectrum of our range? We've got, you could move just a little bit and notice what's going on there, or we could go all the way to that end range, which is like full expression of the pose, as much as I can bend forward, and maybe coming back from that. So hope that makes a little bit of sense, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, and we'll get started. So if you still have your video on, see if you can click that off and just make sure you're muted. So it'd be video off and muted, and then we'll make sure we're all on the same page. So I'm seated, and if you're seated, that works out good. We're going to start with our feet. So more than the bottom of my feet today, I'm actually going to work with the top of my foot and just give it a little bit of attention. Whatever I've been doing lately, I started doing this to my feet, and I was like, whoa, there's some things I need to work with on the top of my foot, and it connects in, of course, to my shin. So likely I'm doing some different walking or running, and it's getting a little bit different for me. May not be that way for you, but I'm just going to work a little bit with the top of the foot. Now it's pretty bony up here, but in between the bones, you can get a little bit of a channel here going, and you can kind of clean out the gutters, so to speak, or you can even go along the bone, top of your toes, and just give it a little wake up. And I'm just sliding down there in between and then on top, and doing a little wake up to the foot. Giving that a little wake up. And there's not a lot of time I want to spend there. We're going to do some more, but I might even take the foot and just do a big little twist, like you're wringing out your foot a little bit, and feel kind of nice to do that. So I'm holding my foot a little weird. I'd probably more hold it like this just to be able to show you. And then grabbing onto the toes just feels nice, waking up the foot a little bit here. And then we'll bring that foot down. And if you're on the floor, you might just continue on. I'm just gonna take in a little, how does my foot feel compared to my other foot? Even without standing, there's a pretty big difference in the quality of my foot, just giving that a little bit of work. So you may or may not have that big of a aha here, but let's give the other foot a little bit of attention. So again, I'm going in between the bones, relaxing the foot best I can. There's that big channel between the big toe and the next toe, and then the channels are a little bit skinnier there, but you can just give them a nice little squeeze down. And then you can go ahead and squeeze onto the toes, starting up above the toes in line with that. And you'll be gentle, can be a little sensitive. And then big toe and the tops of my foot a little bit. And then I'm just going to move it so I can give it that little twist, just a little twist to the ball of the foot, kind of from the arch outward, right? You can give it a little twist there. Wake it up. All right. So foot 2 is feeling a little bit better, a little more equal. All right. So I'm going to take my chair out of the way and come up to my feet and see how that feels standing. Oh, it feels pretty nice to have that done. So I'm going to continue working with the feet a little bit and spreading the toes apart, feeling I'm just lifting and spreading back down, spreading the toes out. Big toe mound, all the toes. Good. And I'm going to shift weight and see if I can come back and give my toes that other direction, right? So top of my foot is a little bit on the floor. I'm going to just be real gentle here. There is a lot for me to experience. And again, but I don't need to go to as much feeling as I want. It's just like there is feeling there already. And I'm just going to let that be. And then bring that foot back. Both feet on the floor and shift and just see how it feels. Like, is there do I have to go way forward with my knee? If we bend both knees, there's even more stuff there, right? But we don't have to go past, a 30% effort here or a 50% effort. Just noticing. Yeah, curious to notice or know what you notice when you do this. It's like, is it a big aha or is it nice and loose? Does it feel good on your toes? All right, so both feet back. And just noticing in standing. How is your posture with your feet a little bit more awake? Just noticing what you notice all the way up the body. And then let's bring the heels together. And let's give ourselves a little more coming up to up the body, up into the belly, the knees, the hips. Bring my hands to the waist and bend the knees and straighten. And bend the knees and straighten. Right. Good. And now bending the knees, we'll pause here, lift the heels, straighten the knees, and come back down. Bend the knees, lift the heels, straighten and drop. Bend, lift, straighten and down. Bend the knees, lift the heels, straighten the knees with the heels lifted and come back down. We'll go the opposite way, lifting the heels up and down. Let's just do that part. Heels up and down. If they can stay connected, gives you a little more stability. So even if the heels then barely lift off, it's almost a little more advantageous than letting the heels separate. So up and down. And notice what's going on with, as you get a few more reps here, what's happening in the body, right? You feel that in the back of your legs, center of your legs, outside of your legs. Come on up, bend the knees, reach the heels down and straighten. Up, bend the knees, reach the heels down and straighten. Coming up, bending the knees, reaching heels and straightening. Let's do one more like that. Up, bend, heels down and straighten. All right, stepping the feet apart. And just a little bit wider with my stance. I'll bring my hands up to my head, just for a different place to hold the hands. Let my head rest into my hands. I'm not really pushing back, but just letting there be a nice comfortable spot here. And then let's do a little shift here to one side and let that foot lift off. And then come back to center, shift, lift. Come back to center, shift your weight, lift the foot, and come back. So I'm not really, again, not trying to find my end range, meaning how high can I go with that leg, but more steady and controlled. Belly is working, getting a lot of feedback for my nervous system here, for my balance, without needing to go. If I were to go as far as I can, that's as far as I can go, right? So maybe doing a 50%, 70% lift with the leg. More concerned with this nice rhythm I can get going, the balance in each side, feeling each foot land, and the other leg just feel like it's really supported outward. Good, both feet come to the floor, and let's do a little twisting since we have our hands here. So let your upper body go to the side and come back to center. Now, we've done this before, and our biggest thing is that we want to go to end range. We want to go as far as we can, and in the process, we take the hips. So this time, right now, we're not taking the hips. Take the belly, really ground at the knees and the low belly, and then see what you can find in your little bit of twist here. Twist. Find the breath. Last two. This is kind of a wake up into the rib cage, right? And into our breathing mechanism. So let's go ahead and bring the arms down. Mine are kind of tired out from that. All right. And then taking the feet wide. Turning the toes out, spreading the toes apart, feeling that nice grounded feeling. Good. And then exhaling, coming down. Inhaling to come up. Exhaling down. Inhaling up. And just noticing in your body, how is this feeling today? Is it smooth? Is it supported? Is it the opposite of that? Is it feeling a little disjointed? And as you keep moving, feeling the feet, bring your attention downward. So kind of into my belly here, into my legs. In the Ayurveda world, this season of fall, we get a little bit more agitated by wind and dryness. And the parts of the body that you want to work with are hips, knees, and ankles, feet, are digestive, like the large intestine. So good news is we do these practices a lot. And the good news is we're going to do them more into the fall. So we've been doing hips already, been talking about the knees already. Same today. Bringing your energy, your brain, if it could, land downward in the body. Attention down here. Couple more, just warming up and seeing if you feel a little more fluidity. And the next time you're in that down position, we'll pause here. We'll give the feet a little more challenge. Let's go ahead and bring our weight forward, lifting both heels up. All right, both heels lifted. Let's lower one down. Count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tap and lift. Other heel lowering down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift. Both heels slowly lowering. If you can imagine your heel stretching backward as well, can be icing on the cake. Slowly lowering. 3, 2, 1. Let your heels come down, but really feel the weight in the, follow the foot in the heels equally. Bring our hands to heart center. Let things get a little bit warm here. And maybe notice our tail. What muscles are working that you don't need to squeeze in? Really, this is about big muscles of the legs. And now slowly pressing up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. So it's nice to be done with that for the moment. Heart rate a little bit present, still not probably anything super cardio. I'm gonna walk my feet underneath me. All right, let's take a little half salute here. So we'll take that breath in, bringing the breath downward again, and exhaling, arms out and up. Inhaling, let's fold forward, soften your knees. And exhaling, hands at the tops of the knees, kind of a lengthened spine here, but be gentle. I'm gonna take another breath there and then coming forward. And find an inhale here. And exhaling, arms out and up. Nice. And then stepping the feet apart, medium distance. And then let's start with your right foot. So turning your right foot out and turning your left toes in. And let your hips then come along for that journey. Generally, it will be a little bit more toward the front foot, but not completely square. And then find a nice reach through your back leg. Before we even start to bend the front knee, is this back leg really connected into the foot? And then go ahead and come forward. And if we continue to think about what is end range, we could do the smallest bend in our knee on this spectrum. We could do a medium bend, or we can go all the way to the end. And so somewhere in there is a sweet spot. Somewhere in there is the right spot for today. There's that. And also somewhere in there is a place that you know you're not going to anything too strenuous, right? So there's challenge, yes. And maybe it feels really good to bend your knee a little bit more to the back for your back leg or for your front leg. But just aware, if you're one that always goes to a certain spot, that there can be kind of some novelty in only going so far. So I'm going maybe halfway or 3/4 of the way with that knee, and I'm going to pause there for today just to see. Reaching through the back leg, hands coming to heart center, extending the arms out. I'm going to take my head on a journey looking over the front hand. Full exhale, and turn back, look back behind me. And then come back to the front hand. That knee is still in kind of my halfway point. Maybe I'll give it a little more bend just to see what's that feel like. Softening jaw. Bringing that awareness down into your feet. I'm going to stay here for a few more breaths. Feet, awareness in the feet or belly. And then slowly pressing down. to straighten that leg and dropping the arms and stepping the feet underneath you. Inhaling into the belly, exhaling arms out and up. Inhaling forward fold. Exhaling hands at the knees, tipping the pelvis into a neutral or even a little more flexed position. Inhaling forward fold. Exhaling arms out and up. And bringing the arms back down. Stepping the feet back to that medium wide stance, and we'll turn out to the second side, turning your foot out, your left toes turning in or lifting that heel to bring it back into a little bit of a diagonal back there, and letting the pelvis. For me, that kind of a natural spot is more in a diagonal, right? A 45-degree. And I'm going to find that back foot again. Back leg nice and reaching. I'm going to just play with that spectrum of bending my knee. What happens if I bend my knee 30% a couple of times? Not that much bend. Still a lot of things going on in my back leg. And maybe go a little bit further. And then explore a little bit further, 80%, 90%. That's it. And I'm going to find that sweet spot to pause. A little bit closer in that I probably would on any other day. Just because today that's what I'm challenging myself with a little bit. What if I do the practice and I'm at 70% of my range of motion? And then we'll bring the hands out again and bring the fingertips toward each other. I'm going to mindfully extend, resisting that extension a little bit. Looking out over the front hand. And really feeling the feet. So I turn my head to look back behind me. And back and front. Feeling the feet. Awareness downward. Down toward my low belly. And this time coming up with the hands. Not so much that you start to shorten or tighten around your neck. Bringing the arms up. And as you straighten the knee, coming back to center. Walking the feet underneath you. Broadening the shoulders. So as I did that, as I thought broad shoulders, they came down as I thought of broadening across the upper back. So just want to feel that shoulder release. And then let's bring the arms down. Nice. And then stepping the feet apart. Medium distance. And you will want to keep that into a medium distance. So again, I could go wider here, but with the pose I'm going to be going into, I think I want it a little bit shorter. So not too short, but not your widest stance. Turning that back foot in and then letting my hips go along for the ride. Finding this back leg again. And this time I'm going to let my belly, if it wants to, turn a little more toward my front knee. Lots of strength in the back leg to do that. As the low belly turns a little more, we really need to ground in through that back leg. And then let's take ourselves into a little bit of a bent knee. Just a little, 30% bend. And then let's take our our torso and come forward a little bit. And then come back up. And just notice, how is that feeling for you, both legs? Or maybe you feel something in the back or torso. A little bend forward and a little bend in my knee. and then coming up and straightening the knee a little more. Now, what happens if we don't bend the knee? Nice and straight. And again, we're not going for the stretchiest stretch we can find, but maybe we go to a place where it's like, we found something. There's some sensation in the back of my leg, and I'm just going to pause right there. And taking my hand somewhere on my leg. I can gently put it on my knee or above my knee, but not just like press on it. So if you really need to give some weight to that leg, see if you can avoid the knee. Then take my other hand to the belly. And see if I can turn open a little bit. Turning open with my low belly. Then the chest can come along. And maybe my arm lifts up. Okay. Let's take the head on a journey. Let's take that head downward. Turn your head back so you're looking toward a screen. And then maybe looking upward. And then the head coming back. The hand coming back to the belly turning back toward the knee. The torso coming upward and coming back. Coming back into your stance, your medium wide stance, and just noticing. So working with triangle, but maybe not your full expression of triangle, right? That is a very doable, and yet for me, plenty of work and sensation going on. So it just depends, how do your hamstrings feel today? That's a big hamstring pose, isn't it? So, or maybe the calves. So let's try the other side, doing that similar work, turning the foot out, turning the back toes in, letting the belly come along this time. Back leg really stretches back into the heel, into the foot. And we started with a little bend in the knee, and we took the torso forward and back. Now this side, very different for me. Maybe you have the same experience. I started on a side that I usually have a little more information coming in than I'd like. This side feels like, oh, am I really doing anything in this little bent knee position? But it's fine. It's good to know that. And I'm going to straighten that knee out and then come forward and check it out straight. And come back up. Again, working with that range of motion, knowing that when we feel something, that's already somewhere along that line. Do we have to feel the most extreme thing to be doing yoga, to be doing a mindful practice, a mindful movement? No. No is the answer. So we can experiment along that path. So when you find that best spot where you're feeling, yeah, there's some sensation there, that's enough. Finding a place for your hand. My arms are so long that sometimes they go way down here. Today I'm going to keep it just above the knee. Other hand to the belly, and then opening up. Triangle has all these little juicy nuggets for the hip. It's really hip work, not so much belly work, but we're moving from the belly. And then we can move from the heart space a little bit and maybe lift that hand up. Letting the head turn, looking toward the toes. A breath, looking toward the front, looking upward. And back to center. Inhaling to come up. Good, and then stepping the feet underneath you. Good. And then let's just gonna turn my body again. Breath into the belly. Exhaling out and up. Maybe looking up, a little bit of back bend, and then forward fold, inhale. Exhale to the knees. Inhale, I'm going to bend the knees, come into a little bit of a chair pose, hands out in front. Ooh, that's interesting for the ankles again, right? The feet, knees, and hips. Let's straighten up. And let's do that one again, bending the knees, dropping the hips, and coming back up. Really feeling the feet, toes, knees. We talked about the knees, how they like to track with the middle toes. And then seeing if you can drop the hips equally. So we're not shifting left or right as we come down. Sometimes we do that. We shift to the stronger side. Coming to that squatting position, chair pose. I like this hands out front today, just to keep nice and broad in my shoulders. And I'm going to fold forward, bring the hands downward, and I'm going to find my way down to the floor. So however you'd like to do that, and I'll let my heels come up, come into a squat, find my way down. Right down onto the floor. Feels kind of nice to land the body here and just see how everything is feeling. Notice if there's any sensation in your body, like shoulders or in the belly or chest. Maybe the legs feel a little bit tired from doing a little squatting. Just let yourself scoot around, move around if you need to. And then we'll come to a steady position. Interlace the fingers, bring the hands behind the head. Rest the head back into your hand hammock. And then lifting the head up. And then lifting the head up some more. If I go 50%, my shoulders have started to come off, but my shoulder blades are still pretty well set. So sometimes I like to play around right there because there's a lot of work going on to stay in that 50%. And then I'll see if I can find the rest of the way up. Now here's one where it's fun to play along the spectrum. It's also really fun to see if you can maintain your highest spot without any strain. You know, you can tell if you're really overworking in the belly here. And then slowly coming back. Nice deep breath. As we come up this time, the belly will work to lift you up, but see if you can bring your mind a little bit into your spine. What happens in your spine as you do this pose? So lifting the head up some with the arms, and then coming up 50%, noticing the spine, and then some more, and noticing the spine. You know how nice that is for your back. Breath. Nice deep breath. Squeeze on the exhale. One more breath. And inhaling, slowly lowering. Take the hands out. Nice work. Relax the shoulders back. Bring my feet a little bit closer together. Maybe even, let's bring the feet together. So wherever your feet touch, let them touch. The knees don't need to touch. They can be just separated about hip distance apart. And then let's see about lifting. I'm going to pull the belly in, lifting the knees up, and then bringing the feet back down. You could tap the toes or bring the whole foot down. So my feet are connected, but my knees are separated. And I'm just going to work this again, we know we have range of motion here too, but this is a great place to start. The legs are super heavy, aren't they? And we're really lifting them with the belly if we can. So a couple more. Tapping. You can bring those knees in toward the chest if you'd like that little break or that roll into the low back. Feels kind of nice to bring the spine down there. Tap, roll in. Ah, feels so good. Tap, really using the belly. Come in, belly gets to rest, knees go out, back in, and out, and back in. And then just hold the legs here and give yourself a little break. Low back might really like this. Just noticing your hips too. So I'm talking about the hip joint. It'll feel like it's in your groin. That's a lot of what people would identify that spot for. Just notice how this feels for you. Okay, and then I'm going to take the hands alongside the body, and we're going to bring the legs up with a little bend in the knees. I'm going to start with the legs, the feet together like we just had them. And then let's bring the feet down a little bit together, and then separate the feet and circle out to come back up. So I'm going to go down with the feet, circle around, and come back up. I could turn my body so you can see this better. I'm going to do that. Down, out, and back in. So just so you know, I'm not doing a huge circle outward. Little lower here, back around, down, back around. And then let's take a little break. Bring the knees in. Full breath. And let's do the opposite of that one. So the last one we went down and out. Now we're going to go out and come back in. Out. And draw the line back up the center. Out and up the center. Out and up and out and up. Little hip work, lots of belly work. Last one. And then hug it in. All right, let's head into coordination. This is newer to me. I'm working on teaching it, working with it in my own body. So I'm going to start by bringing the knees in and bringing my elbows to a bent position with my fingers upward. And then I'm going to take the feet out. As my feet go out, I'm going to take my hands down and then do a separating of the legs back to center. Knees come in, hands come up. Feet go out, hands go down, separate the feet, come back in. Out. Out, separate. As the knees come in, elbows bend. Then hug the legs in. Go ahead and take that deeper breath. Let the low back, which so much coordinates into the middle back, into the kidney area, the adrenals, kind of where we tend to hold some tension. Let all that land here. Let it be nice and broad there. Full exhales. All right, I'm going to roll up. You're going to roll up. Let's all come up to our feet. Good. So noticing how you feel on your feet here. Let's bring our hands to the sides of the neck and the upper back here into the traps a little bit. And let's just give a little squeeze. Lift your shoulders. I'm doing both at the same time. I'm letting my head kind of loll back and give yourself a little bit of um, manual help here. And whatever feels nice, kind of into the back of the neck here. I'm using my fingers in the back. And I'm tilting my head back so those muscles can be a little bit shortened, right? So I've got some ways to move. If I let my head go forward, it's just all tight and it's harder for me to get in there and kind of get some movement. I'm going to squeeze again in the traps, the upper, right next to the neck, working up the body here. We've been in the feet, the knees and the hips, the core, and now we're kind of moving into the neck, shoulder area. I'm gonna let that be. That feels different already. I'm gonna step forward on my mat actually, and find that breath again. Inhaling, exhaling, arms out and up. Inhaling, coming forward. Exhaling, gorilla pose. Let the neck and shoulders be easy. Then stepping back, let's find our way to downward facing dog. Spreading the toes out. Spreading the fingers apart, we get to ground the hands. Really think this is important here in our practices that we do ground the hands. We find the strength for the wrists and the arms. Let the head go. And we get in that nice inversion, right? Upside down pose. Let's take our knees down to the mat. I'm gonna take them back a little bit farther away from my hands so I can come into a knee down plank. Find that sweet spot for my head. Pressing the hands away, or the floor away with my hands. And then let's bring the tops of the feet down and lower down to the floor. Letting the head be a nice extension of the spine. The chin might tuck a little bit. And then tops of the feet, get back to our tops of our feet, spreading the toes apart best you can. And as you do that, you might feel like I'm starting to press my foot down onto the floor. And that's kind of cool because if you're really spreading your foot out like a webbed foot, you want to see if you can get your pinky side down, your big toe side down, and it might enliven your leg a little bit. Pressing that down onto the floor, just trying one side to start, and then releasing any effort. And then we'll try the other side, spreading the toes apart, top of the foot. Anybody feel like you need to make some connections? Like there's a little blip in your connection back to those pinky toes or to some of the part of your foot. See if you can find that foot and then see if you can press it down a little bit. Top of the foot pressing down. And again, we're not trying to go 0 to 90 in 4 seconds. If working in a little bit less aggressive way still provides you with sensation, then that's fine. And even without sensation, you're still doing it, right? You're still spreading, you're still making a connection to those toes. And then release. All right, top of the foot, toes, definitely found that. I'm going to press myself back up again. So finding your shoulders, finding the strength of your arms, pressing down, pressing up. Coming back to your downward dog, we get to turn the toes under again, working with the feet. Getting that upside down pose. Stepping the feet forward. I'm going to come into chair. So I'm going to bring my arms out, straight out in front, keeping that broad shoulder, loose neck. I'm going to leave the arms down here. Staying in my nice chair pose, feeling the feet, and then pressing down to come up. Inhaling belly, exhaling arms out and up. Nice and gentle with the arms and then folding forward. Exhaling gorilla pose. Stepping back, downward dog. Planting the hands, feeling the fingers. Lifting the hips up, back up behind me. So I'm going to give that a little bit more attention this time. My heels are still lifted, but I'm seeing if I can really reach up with the hips. Reach back with the hips. Bend my knees a little bit, especially if I'm feeling a lot of sensation in the legs. Again, if I'm working with the spectrum, I don't need to feel the most pull. I could feel something and be just fine. Let's find our plank pose. Knees could be down or knees could be up. Good. So what if we shift so that one foot can come off and we really reach through that toe? So like top of the foot could be on the mat here, or lifting and lifting. Lifting that foot up, coming back. I'll be right with you. And then the other side, top of the foot, or lifting, reaching through the foot. Back to hands and knees, lowering down to the belly. And we'll bring the hands out into a T. Hands out into a T, reaching so much that you end up lifting the hands. Still broad across the upper back. And then let's start to shift downward, downward. And then you'll feel a good spot to rotate, palm upward. And then take that reaching through the fingertips, and then rotate coming back to T. And then take that back again. Both hands working at the same time here. Reaching through your fingers as you go through the movement. Once more. Good. And then resting. So maybe bring your hands up and rest. And bringing the hands back to your side body. Pressing down to come up. And then just walk your knees forward, come to seated. So we kind of worked feet, legs, core, rib cage. We did some work in there, neck and shoulders, using the breath in all of that. And then I was thinking about end of practice and kind of how all of this assimilates or accumulates, and ending with a twist and maybe a forward fold. And I feel like that's almost to kick in a little bit more of emotion. So to fine tune or reset the emotional body. And whatever, that's what I'm offering you. It seems like it'd be a nice thing to do. So let's take one leg over the other. The other foot can be outstretched. And then let's take your other arm across and squeeze in a little bit and sit up nice and tall. If you're really loose on this side, or your joint is feeling not, your hip isn't feeling quite right, you don't have to squeeze in quite so much. Just see if you can sit up nice and tall. And if this is for fine tuning the emotion, let's find the breath. We've already twisted to hug in that leg, so you don't have to go a lot further. Same rule of thumb we've been using today. Do I have to go to my end range to feel something, or can I let the breath do the work? So if I let the breath do the work here, the hand can come back behind me. I can press outward just a little bit with my knee into that arm. So I'm actually working a little bit. And then finding the breath, the head can come along for the ride. Let the head come back, torso come back to center. And then switch sides. So taking that other leg across, sitting up nice and tall. Maybe you're sitting on something if your blanket's nearby. And then that arm coming across, I've already started to turn my chest. I've really already come into a twist. So if I do nothing more than breathe here, this is probably a great pose. I'm working with my hips, my legs, my torso. Hand might come to the floor or a block. I might take my chest a little bit further for that ride. Breath. I might press my knee into my arm a little bit. Playing with action and resistance, right? Having some kind of something to push against. Letting the breath do the work. One more breath. Coming back to center. Both legs outstretched. Earlier, we did a folding forward position and standing. And now if I want to do a forward fold in sitting, what can that feel like, look like? So I'm going to give a little bend to my knees to start. Same idea we had earlier. Maybe I'll dig my heels in just a little bit. A little bit of activity with my heels and the back of my legs. And then taking that torso forward. Taking your torso, nice straight torso forward. And coming back. Relaxing the hip flexors a little bit. It's kind of hard to do here. We are using them. Come forward. And come back to upright. So depending on your body, how does that feel? You know, how is that feeling for you? Like pretty smooth, easy to do, or lots of sensation, right? There could be everybody in the class having a different experience here. So if you'd like, you can try a different position, dropping the knees a little bit more, or even letting them be flat and trying that same thing out. Now, how is it? You're taking a little bit of that, you're letting the back line kind of come back into play here. So folding forward and finding a sweet spot here where you're feeling sensation, but you're not in the biggest sensation. When you find that resistance, pausing there, and then letting your sort of straighter spine go into a more relaxed spine, rounded. And then using the breath again, right? Regulate emotion, regulate nervous system. Breath. then slowly coming up. And you can rest back onto your back, or you could come to a comfortable seated position. We'll just spend a minute or so allowing the practice to assimilate. So taking yourself into a reclining position or into a seated position. In whichever position you chose, allowing your mind to body scan and see where you're contacting the earth, your mat, your props, your carpeting. Just notice where the body is. And if there's a way to imagine, to sense those parts of the body that are in contact becoming heavier. And then even the parts of the body that aren't in contact with the surface, allowing them to be heavier. So if you're lying back, the front part of your body doesn't have contact, but could the collarbones rest back? Could the sternum rest back? Could the belly, the tops of the legs, the tops of the feet rest? And if you're in seated, can the shoulders rest downward? The head feels supported. The legs give up some of their effort to pull upward. Few more breaths here. Dropping into the earth. And then as you're ready, finding your way upward. Releasing any seated position. Staying here if it's comfortable for a longer relaxation, a longer reset. Or finding it at another time today, saying, I'm going to take 10 minutes of just lying on my back, really can be restorative. So I welcome any questions, either if you've watched this in the recording or if you think of something later, something that worked well, something that you had questions on. Love to hear from you. Love to know that the video library is getting used. Sometimes we don't have a lot of data on that yet. And otherwise, I will see you Sunday and Monday if you're interested in the webinar. So have an awesome day, everybody.